Covering 71% of the Earth's surface and containing between 50 and 80% of all life on Earth, the ocean is by far the biggest and most important biome on the planet. Oceanic ecosystems function very differently from those on land, and studying their unique properties could lead to scientific breakthroughs as well as help scientists understand how the ocean will react to global warming. One unique oceanic ecosystem which presents a valuable research opportunity is the whale fall. The ocean is split into distinct layers based on depth, and in each layer life is very different. In the first two layers, the epipelagic and mesopelagic zones, sunlight is still available, and photosynthetic plant life can grow. However, the lower end of the mesopelagic zone at 1,000 meters below sea level marks the point at which no sunlight can reach. In the bathypelagic, abyssopelagic, and hadopelagic zones below 1,000 meters, the world is pitch black, and photosynthetic plants cannot grow. This results in an ecosystem that functions on a very short supply of resources. The majority of the nutrients available in the depths come in the form of marine snow, a constant slow trickle of debris and dead matter from the upper ocean. This food source means that the majority of deep-sea animals have evolved as scavengers, or detritivores, able to live on scraps and feeding primarily on dead matter. Plants and bacteria have also adapted to the extreme environment. Because there is no sunlight, photosynthesis is not available to produce energy for the ecosystem. Instead, energy is produced in the depths via chemosynthesis, a process in which compounds like sulfides are broken down and turned into usable energy. The chemosynthetic bacteria which create this energy cluster around deep-sea hydrothermal vents, which provide heat and a source of sulfur for them to grow. This results in hydrothermal vents acting as hot spots of life in the otherwise mostly barren deep sea, with small reefs popping up around them as plants and other organisms rely on the chemosynthetic bacteria to survive. Because of this, life in the depths is concentrated in specific areas with lots of empty space between. In an environment shaped by limited resources, what would happen if a feast suddenly appeared? Enter the whale fall, an event in which a whale carcass from the upper ocean descends into the bathy or abyssopelagic zones below 1,000 meters. When a whale dies, its body will rise to the surface and float for a few days, until its internal pressure grows too strong and the built-up gases burst from the body. Once this happens, the body will lose its buoyancy and fall to the seabed. This can result in the whale's body reaching the depths of the ocean and settling there. In an ecosystem where the majority of available food is a slow trickle from above, this is a giant mass of food hitting the seabed all at once, in an event that will shape the surrounding seabed for decades and create a unique ecosystem. There are 4 distinct stages to a whale fall event. First is the scavenging stage, the stage in which large organisms come to feed on the whale's soft tissues. In this stage, large animals like sharks may come down to the depths from the upper ocean to feed on the carcass, and scavengers like hagfish will slowly pick apart the body over the course of a few months. Most of the whale's available resources are consumed in this stage. Once the majority of the whale's body has been scavenged, the whale fall enters the second stage, where smaller scavengers and invertebrates come in to clean off the skeleton and sift through the surrounding seabed for leftovers. Worms, small octopi, and other scavengers can feed off the remains in this stage for several years, until the skeleton and surrounding seabed are picked clean. Once all that remains is the whale's skeleton, the breakdown of resources within the skeleton itself begins. This marks the next stage of the whale fall, where chemosynthetic microorganisms break down the marrow and leftover blubber within the whale's bones, producing sulfides as a byproduct. These sulfides spread out along the sediment surrounding the whale's skeleton, providing a growing bed for sulfur-based chemosynthetic bacteria. This results in sheets of diverse bacterial growth surrounding the site of the whale fall, which supports filter feeders like clams and worms. Additionally, characteristic of this stage of the whale fall is the red Osedax worm sprouting up all around the skeleton, burrowing into the marrow and feeding on the bones. Extracting nutrients from the bones is a slow process, and as a result this stage of the whale fall is by far the longest, lasting decades. Once the bones have also been fully extracted, a 4th stage begins, sometimes referred to as the reef stage. Even without any resources available, the skeleton of the whale provides a hard surface for filter feeders like clams and corals to attach themselves to. Because the seafloor often has long stretches of loose sand with not much to anchor to, these organisms will use the whale bones as a hot spot to set themselves up. As a result, old whale falls will often end up becoming small reefs supporting a simple ecosystem for extremely long periods. Whale falls are a complex phenomenon with many implications and opportunities for study. One of the most important ways whale falls can be used to advance science is by using them as a model for ecological succession. All ecosystems experience patterns of succession where the organisms within the ecosystem will change based on the properties of the environment, such as changing resource levels. Whale falls present a sped-up version of this process, as we can watch the whale fall progress through the different stages in a matter of decades as opposed to centuries. By studying the processes, organisms, and interactions which make up the different stages of a whale fall, we can get insight as to how ecological succession may take place on a larger scale in other ecosystems. They are also a valuable model to study adaptive radiation, the process by which organisms evolve and adapt to fit changes in their environment. Several species have been identified in the deep sea which appear specifically adapted to live at whale falls. One example is the red Osedax worm mentioned earlier, which is almost exclusively found at whale falls. These hotspots of life in the deep sea present rich opportunities for scientists to observe and identify new or rare species. As many of the species that live in the deep sea are so rare their sightings can be counted on one hand within a decade. Overall, whale falls are a fascinating phenomenon which is extremely valuable for study. Their value as models and as concentrated regions of deep-sea life make them a very useful tool for scientists. Whale falls offer valuable insight into how life functions in the deep sea, as well as broader insight into how ecosystems function as a whole. They also offer a glimpse into how adaptive radiation and ecological succession take place. Through the study of whale falls, scientists can achieve a better understanding of life within the ocean, as well as a better understanding of the processes of life in general.